We push record.
Record's on, mate. We're on. Here we go.
Let's go, son.
So good morning, everyone. We're going to just chuck the recording on today and just talk a bit of rubbish while we run through some exchange rates and some sports. Big Sydney derby over the weekend. Did you go to the game?
No, I didn't go to the game, mate. 30,000 crazy Sydney FC and Wanderers supporters. We were actually at home. It was one of our few weekends, mate, where we didn't have anything on, so we took advantage of that and had a couple of friends over and a barbecue and a swim in the pool, and we watched the game in the background.
Yeah, no, it was the same. Actually, we were at home because we had a big Sunday, so we just stayed in Saturday night, stuck it on the TV, watched the second half. Looked like there was a great atmosphere there, and when the Wanderers made it 3-2, I thought we got a game on then, because when it went 3-1, the Wanderers looked all right. They looked the most likely to get the goal back, and then Sydney just ran away with it in the end.
Yeah, it's interesting, when you watch Borrello when he went up to the Cove fans and gave them a bit of wipe of the tears when he got back to two apiece just before half time there. You sort of sit there and you be careful about that sort of stuff. I love the passion. I love the emotion. And there's not many codes that can do what football does when you get a derby game or derby game, whichever way you want to call it.
No.
If you have a look at the rest of the weekend, and both you and I are bolt-on A-League people, so we know it. But when you have a look at across that Unite round and the crowds, even the commentary and the narrative's been, poor in terms of the overall attendance. But if you look at that game, there's 30,000 people there. True derby. There's a true dislike between the two. The old Fibros versus the Silvertails in rugby league. It's a very similar mindset. Brilliant to be part of. A brilliant game to go and watch, especially everything that happens outside the stadium on the walk in. There's no other code, mate, that comes close to that side of it.
No, I know. And the Kiwis keep winning, both of them, first and second in the league.
Mate, it's interesting because you come into an Asian Cup, and they play in the OF side of things, so the Oceania side. No, it's an interesting one. Auckland still haven't conceded a goal. 4 games in, new club, you've got to give them credit. And Wellington, they've been a class act now for the last couple of years. Unlucky last year, some would say. So imagine that if you had an all New Zealand grand final.
Never hear the end of it.
Mate, they'll bring, Chris? He wouldn't have to come home and play for one of them before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They tried, didn't they? Auckland tried to get him. Yeah.
Mate, he's scoring goals for fun over there in the Premier League. He's not coming home yet.
No, not yet. But when he does, SportsFX will be ready for him, that's for sure.
Mate, SportsFX, he's got us. He's got our number on speed dial, mate. He's ready to go.
And flipping over to the cricket, I was at the pub the other day. We finished our football, went over. Oh no, maybe it was Friday. No, what was it? Sunday afternoon. And I just had a look up and seen Australia again absolutely hammered by India.
Yeah, it's a disappointing one. I don't know. I'm a bit old school when it comes to when we bring foreign teams down to Australia. We should take as much advantage as we possibly can and prepare conditions to our liking rather than the team coming to country. We don't get the same level of support when we travel. So, that was a complete toweling, if you like, to watch India. And we played him into form. Virat Kohli now in form, scores a century in the first match. That sets him up for the rest of the tour. We go to Adelaide. It's a batter-friendly pitch, playing day-night game, ball moving off the seam, probably in the air as well, probably more so in the air with that pink ball. So it's going to be very interesting, mate. We hopefully we come out at the other end and we've won the series, but we certainly haven't started well.
No, I know. And I caught I didn't watch the match, but I seen the results in the Davis Cup as well, which was a disappointing loss to Italy, wasn't it, in the semi? Did
you read Leighton Hewitt's comments or his post-match press conference where he sort of spoke about just the irregularities of why the finals need to be held in a European country, and they've been held in Spain now for the last 3 years. That's on the doorstep of most of these European powerhouses. So, for the Italians or whatever to fly across to Spain, it's an hour away, right? Where Australia's a measly 26 hours away. So yeah, just it felt like it's always an away tie every time we play a Davis Cup final series in Europe. So he's sort of proposing, and we've certainly put presentations together to tennis to bring the finals down to Australia, where we would do it magnificently. This time of year in Australia, the weather's magnificent.
Yeah.
You're getting ready for the Australian tennis season anyway. What better place to come down and play your Davis Cup set finals, if you like, and then have a month off, if you like, and get ready for the Australian summer.
Yeah, and I think that I've done a few interviews over the years through the overseas athlete, and one thing I try and ask about is the jet lag and how they deal with it. Because obviously, I went to Europe last year on a holiday, and for 3 days you just feel like a zombie. You're not eating properly, you're not sleeping properly, so to perform at that highest level, very difficult.
Yeah, mate, there is, and you'd know it from your playing days too. There's a real art to how you travel. When you eat, what you eat.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when we travelled with our teams, the doctors, the sports science guys, they would have it mapped out before we got on the plane. Certainly from a meals point of view, any form of medication, just to assist.
Yeah.
Based on timings, how quickly we got onto that time zone when we got onto the plane, and how we conducted ourselves while we're on that plane. Yeah, it's not an easy thing to do, to turn up somewhere and be it 24 hours or 36 hours later play.
Yeah, no, very difficult. Very difficult. Makes it hard. And it just shows over the years how well we've done in an international arena in most sports.
I think we've learned, haven't we, mate? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we are where we are in the world. We've got no choice. It's not like we can click our fingers and we're all of a sudden we're only going to be 2 hours away. We perform well. It's interesting. We go to countries in our own time zone, but there's still a good 9-hour flight, even in our time zone. To get out of Australia, if you want to sort of go west and or northwest, you're a good 5.5 hours before you've left our shores. So it's just not an easy thing to do, and we punch well above our weight. And then if we really want to give our mates across a ditch a bit of credit, you have a look at their sporting performances over the last month. They've won everything.
Yeah,
everything. From Sail GP through to the netball, through to the cricket, everything.
Very impressive. Very impressive.
It's incredible. It really is. Both sides of it. But it's topical for us now, mate. Getting into the new season, if you like. We're talking about tennis coming down to Australia, and those international athletes coming down here. Australians returning home. You've got the golf on at the moment. A lot of internationals and Australians coming back for that. Obviously, prize money won here, and where that would be repatriated to, and then cricket. We've just seen the IPL auction overnight, with all the players being, sent to drafted to their respective franchises. So there'll be a lot of Australian cricketers that'll be looking to look at how they're going to support their currency movements off the back of their contracts with the IPL and some of these other franchises.
Yeah, and a lot of that, I'm guessing, just from experience, most of it's US dollars, some's rupee, but again, you're sitting at, if you are US dollars, you're pretty much sitting at a 12-month high back to Australia. So an option like you've signed a deal worth X amount. Do you want to lock away half of that at high exchange rates and just give yourself a baseline for the next however long you're over there?
Yeah, I think that's right. And as we've spoken about on air and off air, it's about the individual discussion with those players, player managers, and so forth about what their needs are at the time. And if we need to hold, we hold. We just do a currency plan for them that supports their needs for the now and also for the future. Because it may well be worth a hold for a good 12 months while we see what's happening. They may have other needs. It may not even be coming back here. We might be dropping it into a US account in the US. We might be going into the UK for their season. There's all sorts of needs from those cricketers, especially when they get onto that franchise hamster wheel.
Yeah, and just get moved around very quickly, can't they? A couple of months here, a couple of months there.
Yeah, most definitely. And then you've got the international calendar that sits inside that. So, yeah, I think for me right now, probably the three topical sports are those cricket, the tennis, and the golf right now. You've only got to look at, if you have a look at golf on the weekend where, Elvis Smiley won the PGA. That sets him up now. He'll go to the DP Tour. You've got your Micheluzzi, who did really well there last year. Again, we'll go back next year. Some of these young Australian golfers, and obviously winning prize money here in Australia. What's their plan? Are they how was that provided? I dare say it would have been Australian dollars. Those international winners will want to move their prize money back to wherever they want to move it to. Some may leave it onshore, but again, just having the ability to ring an organisation like us, and if this reaches some of those player managers or agents that work with these athletes, if it just triggers in their mind to give an entity like SportsFX a call, we can certainly sit down with them and have that conversation around what their currency needs are.
And not only that, I guess one thing that we probably haven't thought of, you just mentioned it then, but these young Australian guys that are winning prize money here now, a lot of them I know through tennis and through golf, they might have to move themselves to the US for a base. A lot of the big stars, that's what they do. And if these guys are starting out, so even though they might win Australian dollars and there's no currency need there, if they go, oh, you know what, I need to move to Miami to be at this particular tennis academy or golf academy, I'm going to need rent, accommodation, I'm going to living expenses. So then that money is going to go the other way. So it's, there's always an arm somewhere that needs a hand.
No, completely, mate. And as we said, we're not an exclusive bringing it back to Australia. We'll support and assist wherever the best suits the athlete, where they want to place their money, if you like. Because you're right, they're either basing themselves in the US or they're basing themselves in Europe, depending on where they're playing the majority of their professional events.
Yeah.
So that makes perfect sense to me. And obviously, then inside of that, we've got the support of international tax agents and so forth that can assist in what that looks like to ensure that they don't have any tax risks, if you like. We can do the currency side of it. That's our specialty. But, our advice is always, especially with the international athletes, is to make sure they've got the right legal advice around tax. You hear it too often with, especially in the football world.
Yeah.
Tax liabilities for players. So we'll make sure they got the right advice.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the other one I was just thinking about, only because we've got a call with them this morning, is baseball kicked off over the weekend. So the Australian Baseball League, but obviously within that, there'll be a lot of Americans coming across to play, or coaches, as we know, or vice versa. After the season finishes, there's some Aussies going to play over there.
100%. And, we do a lot of work, in that Japanese region, into Japan. Baseball is up in that space. I mean, the Australian team's just come back from Japan. It's a really strong bastion for us from a sporting context. Australian athletes going that way, yeah. But the baseball one is a critical one right now as well. A lot going on.
There is the summer of sport, as we say in Australia.
Yeah, summer of sport that goes 365 days, right?
I know, it does. It does. Well, speaking of what goes almost 365 is the markets themselves. So, last week, what do we see? Aussie sort of sold off again. So we started the week around 64.5 cents, got as high as 65.5, and we're back down to 64.5 at the moment against the US dollar. Now, that's just sort of been, I think at the moment, the US gained a bit of ground. Obviously, they're still on that Trump trade and everything's positive. But alongside that, he's starting to now make, putting people in place, and whether that's having a good effect or a bad effect as the market sees it. But their treasury rates have risen. The US against the pound, against the euro, against the Aussie have all risen, against the Japanese yen as well. So the US is very strong. I think I was looking this morning. So out of the last week, it had moved quite significantly. It moved sort of 1.5% against the euro, 1% against the pound, Swiss franc, Swedish krona, New Zealand dollar, Aussie and yen. It sort of had a spike, came back, and again this morning it's taken off. US very, very strong. So if you are in the US earning US dollars, whatever it may look like, definitely have a look at moving some money home or wherever it needs to go and taking advantage of these good rates. What else we looked at? Sort of the euro has been the big talking point. So at the moment, or last week, they had very disappointing manufacturing numbers, which put them in contraction, as I would say. So if it comes in under 50, it's a contraction. So the economy's shrinking. So the response to what I've been reading, is that potentially the European Central Bank will respond with a 50 basis points cut in December over there. Now, a lot of that's probably priced in at the moment, especially with the US to euro US that we've seen and we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. It's dropped from $1.12. It's all the way down to $1.04 now. It hit $1.330, I think it was, late last week. So the euro's collapsing in regards to the exchange rates, and moving into next year and their sort of central bank and monetary policy is potentially up to five cuts next year is sort of on the card. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one to see what happens there and what sort of happens around that region. But same in the UK with the pound. So business activity in the pound was a little bit weaker than expected. Economy is just very stagnant at the moment. So again, dropping against the US because of the wave of support in the US dollar. But again, that just may mean that looking at potential interest rate cuts in the UK as well. So looking at that, Aussie pound, Euro pound, Euro Aussie, and Aussie US. It's just sort of, they've all had that major move from the election, and now they're starting to settle, but they're definitely settling a lot further south than what they were.
Yeah, as you say, there's a lot happening. We're sort of coming into that back end when you normally are things sort of slow and relaxed, but off the back of what's occurred globally and what is occurring globally. You've only got to look at some of the geopolitical conversations that are taking place at the moment across the globe. That at a point in time will impact the markets.
Yeah, and looking ahead into this week, so sort of quiet day today. There's a bit of information out, but nothing high tier. Tomorrow we've got you've got the FOMC meeting minutes, so the minutes from the last Fed meeting is coming out tomorrow morning. Australian CPI figures year on year, so that'll be a key one. That's at 11:30, so that'll be an important one tomorrow. And then the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, they're expected to cut rates to 4.25% tomorrow. So again, another interesting one to see what happens there. Aussie New Zealand has jumped up to $1.11, hit nearly $1.12 on Friday, and sort of sold off a bit yesterday. So that's another interesting one to watch. They've got that tomorrow. So depending on the commentary around that and whether they cut 25 or 50 or whether they leave it, we'll probably see a lot of movement tomorrow in the New Zealand dollar. Yeah. Into Thursday, we've got some GDP figures out of the US and unemployment claims, but we also have Thanksgiving coming up this week. So we're going to have a shorter week in regards to banking and announcements and probably, banks trading. So probably a lot less liquidity and volume moving the market sort of Thursday, Friday. But definitely a key day, I reckon, overnight tonight and tomorrow with a few key announcements and things just to be aware of.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I had, I'll share my screen quickly. So I've got a particular client that, let me just do this here. Now, this is where we talk about currency management. So currency management, as we say, there's international money transfers, which obviously what we do. And people just can go on and you can do that any time of the day, whenever you need. Currency management we talk about a lot is what I feel is this. So we've got a client who earns US dollars, but he needs money in Australia. He needs money in the UK, but he receives US dollars, receives a bit of yen. So he's got an 18-month plan where he needs a certain amount of money back in the UK. Now, when we first started talking, this is about a year ago now, rates were okay. They're around about here, around $1.23. So we've done the first transfer at this sort of green zone here. Went a little bit further, but what we wanted to do was average it out over that 18 months, not just take one sort of large whack on it, because it's a large amount of money. It's over $1 million US. So instead of just going in one lump sum and not knowing what's going to happen, we just decided, right, for the next 18 months, we're just going to keep an eye on things. So in here, we got one done. Then obviously, the pound strengthened, US weakened, came a little bit higher. And we wanted to get close to that sort of 123 again, where we got the first one. So it did spike down. We didn't take it at the bottom because we wanted to see if it would retest sort of these areas that we got last time. But as it started to climb, we booked the second deal in April and got around 124, 125. So again, he was happy. That was fine. Then obviously for the last 6 months, it's been, terrible. We've been up as high as $1.34, which is worse for him. So he needs this rate the other way, obviously, because it's pounds first. So we've just been watching, just keeping in touch. Look, nothing happening. Rates are no good. Rates are no good. Even up and around here, we're at $1.31. He sent me a message because he was about to travel, and he's just like, how are they looking? I said, oh, look, to be honest, not great. We'll just hold off again and see what happens maybe after Christmas. Or depending on what happens on the election. And then obviously elections happened, and within that sort of 6-week time period, it had moved 8 cents in his favor. So again, we got that third lot done in and around here, which again, it's not as low, and there's potential room for it to go lower now. And we'll keep an eye on sort of, these key areas here that, where we've sort of booked last time and in and around this, 122 to 124 area. So if we start to see this come back into these sort of levels here, we'll just book some more, because that's taking advantage of these, just plotting in these multi-month highs in sort of his favor. And if we keep coming down, we can just average that down, and overall he's happy. So that's where, when we talk about that currency management overall, is here's an 18-month sort of, we've still got time. We've still got, I think he's got another 6 months before that, the rest of it needs to be across there. So we've got time to play with. And if not, if we get back in and around here, we can do the rest of it. And we've averaged a really good rate over a long period of time when it's, can heavily go against you.
Yeah, that's it. That's 101 right there. That explains it perfectly. The other point to that too is, depending on the client and their needs, do you throw some into a limit order there that just let it hit if they want it at the 122 or wherever they want it, that we potentially put that in play as another option for our clients, depending on how they feel at the time.
Yeah, well, that's the next conversation now that we're coming close again to these sort of levels that we retested. Is can we stick a few orders in and around here somewhere, and just watch for these spikes, because we will see, you can see these sort of wicks that wick through. We'll see days like that where we see big spikes down. So yeah, definitely something that we'll be managing, and something that's it's a great result, and it's good to be able to help someone put out a plan, and follow a plan over a long period of time. As opposed to just transferring money whenever you think you just need it and missing out potentially on like that 6, 7, 8 cents, especially on $1 million US, a large amount. So yeah, so that's the sort of, one of the case studies we've been working on, putting into paper, get the testimonial from the client as well around this, just to help others that want to look at ideas like this or around SportsFX if they haven't heard of us, is just to say, this is who we are, this is what we do, and this is how we try and help.
I think the other point to that is, it's not only putting together that currency management plan, as you say, that's been going on for well over 12 months. The plan doesn't start with the first conversation and end when the last transaction get done. There's ongoing conversations, as you said. He's about to jump on a plane, going to do some traveling, makes a quick call, sends a quick message to say, how we tracking? No, mate, now's not the right time. Go and enjoy your holiday. I'll keep an eye on it. You just go and do what you do. And I know when you want to move. I know when the rates will be right for you. We'll make that call then. So there's the plan, there's the push and pull within the plan that, as I said the other day in one of my messages, I'd challenge any other brokerage firm that does this. When I mean that, I mean outside of hours, late at night, to talk locally on ground here. I mean, all the brokerage firms, 24/7, they follow the sun, but to have that conversation with an Australian broker onshore here, just to satisfy your own curiosities, wherever they are in the world, that they know they can pick up that phone and they're going to get a response to answer, because it's not a difficult question to answer, and it doesn't take long to give them some satisfaction and comfort.
Yeah, Les, I think I flicked you a message on Friday night. It was like 9:15. We're sitting down, watching a bit of TV. Some funds came in. We got 3 deals booked, and that was making calls to someone in Australia, someone to Japan, and I think it was the US was the other one. Just either WhatsApp or phone calls, and having things preset, knowing money's coming in, knowing what rates we want. Friday night, they can be out doing whatever they want. I'll quick touch base. Everything's booked, everything's done. Happy days. Funds are in, funds are out, and that's a great outcome. And as you say, it's late on a Friday. There's not many others that will be out there doing that. That's for sure.
No, that to me is what SportsFX is all about. You can't make that shit up if you know what I mean. It's that's real. It's what happens within the business, and that just demonstrates that care for customer, care for athlete, if you like. And we're seeing, we were talking about it before we started recording, mate. The amount of conversations that we're having, be it not only just sport individuals, sporting clubs, teams, travel companies now that are reaching out to us, sporting good manufacturers that we're speaking to at the moment. There's a real movement, if you like, of people that are hearing about SportsFX on so many different levels now, that we are able to, and as we've said all along, where we aren't the right broker for them, we'll point them in the right direction. Our mantra at the end of the day is to ensure they get the right advice and they get the right platform that works for them.
Yeah, no, 100%. As we say, it's you can't be everything to everyone, but you can know your market and your competitors and know what's good about ones and not good about the others. And for whatever people need, it's all right. We'll use these guys, or we'll try this one, or try that one, and we'll always help where we can. But mate, we've
exactly.
Cracked on for the longest episode ever. I reckon we're up to 27 minutes at the moment. So I'll cut us off because I don't know how much people love talking and listening to us. But it's good. We've got a market update, a sporting update, a currency update, and an industry update. So we've covered everything.
No, we're good, mate. We're good.
We'll probably have next week off.
That time, I think it's getting close for that catch up, mate. I'll either have to come up to the GC or
sun's out,
or whatever.
Sun's out.
Get that get our little Christmas drink in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, mate, I'll let you crack on. We've got our call with baseball in 15 minutes, so we're going to freshen up and catch up shortly.
Keep you there, mate. See ya.